Is my phone gonna fall? I don't know. I just went to Oktoberfest, and I was ranting to my friend in the car on the way home about the concepts I'm about to explain to you right now, okay? So I was reading this book called Freedom from a dude named Osho, Osho, and he he explains this concept, I guess, from Nietzsche about the camel, the lion, and the child. And he says this is the phase that humans go through, but not all humans. In fact, rarely all humans. And my autistic mind can't. I'm not actually autistic. I have been drinking a little bit. Disclaimer. My mind likes to pair things with stuff that I can relate to. So naturally, I figured out how can I relate this to Dragon Ball Z, because that's an anime that I've been big on lately. There's a lot of charm in its simplicity, that anime. If you've passed it over because it was Toonami shit, or because it's guys going rah for 5 episodes, like, give it another try. You might find that it's actually better than you think. But so let me get into this, okay? So the camel is like your normal normie person who consumes basically everything. They say yes to everything. They are storing stuff in their big hump all the time, and they're basically going with the crowd always, right? Then there's the lion, which is someone who has begun to... They've kind of hated themselves as a camel. They start to get self-awareness. They see themselves as a camel, and they move on from that. And they start to develop an ego. They start saying no to things. They start opposing things, maybe even without good reason. They just want to say no, and they want to do things their way, and they just say no. And you could argue that maybe this is like what teenagers do when they grow up, but it's actually on a larger scale. Like, there's adults who are still in the camel phase, who never got out of the camel phase, like 90% of people. And there's not that many who have gone to the lion phase, where they can actively just say fuck off to everything and are willing to put their ego and other things on the line for it. And then after the lion, which, by the way, is crystallized ego. That was a quote from the book. Crystallized ego, an ego that's so strong, just so clear cut, right? The child is someone who has dropped that ego, is no longer a camel, is no longer a lion, and they are someone on the level of, like, almost Jesus-like. Like, being near a child person makes you feel better, almost. Right. That's just how kind of... And I don't mean this is like someone who's like, you walk up to them and they're in these fucking robes and they're... Okay, not necessarily something like that. Maybe you've heard someone who speaks who's very wise. You've heard someone who just seems to, like, have a certain air. You feel it in their air. I've felt people like this before. These are people who are in the child phase. And they're often people who create things, whether it's art or their own lectures or whatever it is, okay? So this is where the Dragon Ball Z part comes in. I was like, how do I relate this to things that I understand? And so here's what I came up with. Okay, your young Gohan is the camel. Vegeta, of course, is your lion, because he's pure ego. All he ever is ego. And even his newest form in the latest chapter of Dragon Ball Super is literally called Ultra Ego. Like, how much more fucking ego can you get if you weren't convinced before? That's what Vegeta has always been about. And then, of course, that leads to who is Vegeta always aspiring to be, whether he admits it or not. Who is he always aspiring to be like? Is Goku, who is the child, the perpetual eternal child. And he is written that way specifically. Goku is not realistic as a character. He, like, almost never changes. That's not realistic. But that's what makes him godly. That's what makes him godlike. is that he is perpetually the child. He is perpetually this enlightened being who only cares about his training, his shugyo, which is a term I learned, which basically means his training, which always takes this vertical path. Okay, he's always trying to fight more people, and all he cares about is his training. He just wants to go up, 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 up. So there we have our camel Gohan, young Gohan, lion Vegeta, a child Goku. It was Jesus-like, okay. But then I started thinking more. I was like, Gohan's actually more complex than that, because Goku was the camel for a long time, and the moment, and Gohan basically goes from camel to lion back to camel. And he never really gets to child. Goku wants him to get to child, but he never reaches it. So here's what happens, okay? Gohan is forced into fighting by Piccolo in the beginning of DBZ. He has to learn how to fight to fight the Saiyans that are coming to Earth. And he watches people die. He's still not ready. He goes to Namek. He's still not quite ready. He beats the shit out of people sometimes, but he's still not ready. He still gets his ass beat. He gets his neck fucking broke by Raccoon. But what happens is his hero arc comes up in the Cell Saga. And this is when Goku is training with Gohan in the hyperbolic time chamber. It's only a few days left until Cell wants to do his Cell games and beat the shit out of everybody. And Gohan's like having nightmares about Cell coming to kill his parents, right? If you remember that scene, I don't know if it was in the manga or not, but Gohan has a nightmare where Cell comes into the hyperbolic time chamber and kills his mom and kills Piccolo and shit. And like he's just fucking distraught over this, and he's training his hardest, and he's trying to be as good as his dad. And Goku's like, hey, dude, we're just gonna do this Kame style, like fucking Master Roshi taught me. Like, we're gonna train, and we're gonna rest, we're gonna eat, we're gonna train again. It's gonna be fine. In contrast to Vegeta, who with Trunks was just fighting with anger, just pure anger, just pure type of shit, constantly, 24/7 for a fucking year. That's why he doesn't make as much progress. And Goku, they come out of the hyperbolic time chamber, Goku and Gohan, and they're like, Goku, you have a plan, right? You have a plan. And Goku's like, I can't beat Cell. Like, what do you mean you can't beat Cell? He's like, yeah, it'll be fine, don't worry about it, but I can't beat Cell. He even goes to fucking Korin and he's like, hey, you felt Cell's power, right? I'm gonna power up. Tell me if you think I'm anywhere near him. Korin's like, no, you're not anywhere near him. And Goku's like, oh, well, who cares? Everyone's like, what the fuck? So then what does Goku do? He doesn't go back into the hyperbolic time chamber. He's like, let's go fucking fish. Let's go hang out. Let's go celebrate Gohan's birthday. Let's go just fuck around for the next 3 days while being Super Saiyans, just chilling out. And Gohan's like, whatever, Goku's got the plan. And then Goku goes to the fucking Cell games and he fights with Cell. And he fights with him and he's like, Gohan, you watching this shit? Said, yeah, I'm watching. And he's like, all right, I'm done fighting Cell. I can't beat him. What? Cell's like, what, you can't beat me? Goku, you're the one everyone told me was the fucking shit. You can't beat me? And he's like, no, it's not me, but like someone else here is going to beat you. Who? Trunks? Vegeta? Piccolo? No, none of these fucking people. Vegeta's like, dude, even I can't fucking beat Cell. Like, even I can't do this shit. Which was hard for him to admit, right? Goku's like, no, my fucking son, Gohan's gonna do it. Everyone's like, what the fuck? Are you fucking crazy? So Gohan goes up and he proceeds to get the shit beaten out of him because Gohan is still a camel. Remember my definition of a camel? Someone who's just been following what everyone's been telling them their whole life. Someone who's just been doing what they've been told. Gohan's getting the shit beaten out of him. Cell has him in a fucking headlock. Or he's got his neck is what I mean. He's got his fucking neck and he's holding him. He's like, I'm gonna beat the shit out of you. Like, it's like, why haven't you shown? I know you're stronger than this, whatever. And then Piccolo says to Goku, is like, let me tell you what your son's thinking right now. Your son is 11 years old, and he's wondering, why isn't my father coming to save me? And Goku realizes maybe he fucked up. He's like, oh fuck, dude, because Goku is that child form, and he's hoping that Gohan is already at the lion phase, and that he'll become childlike like him. Like, he'll realize what this fight is about, and he'll be able to do what Goku wanted to do. Like, he kind of wants Gohan to just do what he would do if he were as strong as him. And Goku's like, oh goddamn, I fucked up. So then Cell hears the story from Gohan about how Gohan chimps out when he gets like emotional trauma, right? Like, he can't, like, he has all this inner power, but he can't let it out until some emotional trauma takes over, and then he almost like blacks out and then just goes fucking ham. And Cell is fascinated because, like every villain in DBZ, they're all prideful and they want to have a good fight. So he's okay. I'm gonna get it out of you. I'm gonna beat it out of you, and that's not working. So now I'm gonna beat up your friends and make them suffer, and maybe that'll be enough to get it out of you. And so he proceeds to do that with the Cell Juniors. He makes the Cell Juniors beat the shit out of all the other Z fighters, and Gohan's like, "Fuck, man, this sucks, but I'm still just a fucking stinky camel." And then Android 16's head appears because Mr. Satan fucking throws it over there, and he's like, "Hey, Gohan, like, I appreciate all the life on the Earth, and I know you do too. And this Cell guy, he's not gonna fucking listen to reason. You got to beat the shit out of him." And then Cell's like, "Thanks, but fuck off. I want to do this my way." So he fucking crushes Android 16's head with his fucking foot, right? And that's when Goku goes, and if you watch the Japanese dub of that, it's so much better than the English one. I don't know if you knew this. I didn't know it for the longest time, but the Japanese dub of that scene is so much better. And I thank my friend Justin for this. If you're watching this, motherfucker, I really didn't know that till you sent me that video. That scene is just so much better. Just go watch it. But the point I'm trying to make is, this is the moment when Gohan goes from camel, someone being given yes, or saying yes to everything his whole life, into becoming someone like the lion who has started to learn that, like, he needs to rely on his own ego. He needs to rely on everything he has learned and say no. Say no, fuck you. Fuck you. So that's what he does. He's extremely strong. He's able to beat the shit out of Cell. But his ego has taken over. His pride has taken over, and this is where the ego falls. So this is probably a, how do I say this? Like a journey that's supposed to take place over a longer span of time. Like, if you become a lion, it probably takes you a while to realize the faults of being a lion. But for Gohan, it happens all in the same day. As soon as he becomes a lion, his pride takes over. He does not kill Cell when he's supposed to. He gets his own father killed because of his pride and his ego, and is traumatized by that. So as soon as he beats Cell, he realizes his mistakes, and he goes back to being a camel. That's what's interesting about this, is that he does not stay a lion. If he'd stayed a lion, he would have kept training, and, well, here's what happens next. We transition to the Buu saga, where he is in high school. He just wants to live a normal life. The shackles of being a camel. He wants to live a normal life. He wants to be respected by his peers. He's worried what they think. That type of shit. And so when Goku and Vegeta go to fight Dabura and Babidi in the ship, Gohan goes to fight Dabura, and he's strong as fuck, but he has not been training the way he's supposed to be, because he no longer had that lion ego to support him, because he fell back into the camel ways without, he didn't have anyone that he had to say yes to anymore. So he started slacking off, and Vegeta's like, "Oh, Kakarot, your son is weak. He hasn't been doing his training." So Gohan doesn't win the fight with Deborah. My memory's already fading. He doesn't win that fucking fight, that's for sure. He doesn't really lose it either, but he's not winning it at all. He doesn't win. He doesn't beat fucking Boo at all. It's fucking Goku who has to do it. And Goku, of course, is the child archetype, the one who has achieved this godlike status, which is possible for him because he's a fictional character. He's fucking made up. He can be anything. He doesn't have the same struggles as like a normal human. That's why he's godlike. So there's really no proper conclusion to this. This is just like an observation I made. But it's interesting, like, if you take your own... I guess this is really what this is about, is that I was applying this to my own spiritual growth as a person. Like, go from camel to lion to child. Like, what's the course you take, right? Where am I? And I decided I'm kind of like between camel and lion. Like, I've had my own ego. I've had my own fuck you moments. I've had my very big fuck you moments to society and have come out stronger for it. But ultimately have still sunk back to those camel-like ways because the comforts of society are tempting, right? It's good to be stable. And when you're a camel, people don't question you. They don't ask you why you're doing things a certain way. They don't challenge you. If you're a lion, people want to grill you all the time. They want to ask why you're doing things, and you have to defend yourself, and you have to come off not like an asshole necessarily, but you have to... People will think you're just being contrarian, whatever the fuck. Okay, so I think Saiyaman Gohan is a good example of like this weird phase where you've experienced what it's like to be a camel, but you have gotten soft. Or no, sorry, you've experienced what it's like to be a lion, but you've gotten soft and have come back to the camel-like ways. That's what the Saiyaman really is he's Gohan that has experienced being a lion, but he's sank back to his camel ways because he has no like big villains to face off against. He's just fighting criminals. So he has no reason to really get stronger. His ego is not there. Where someone like Vegeta is constantly trying to be better than Goku, who's the fucking child archetype, right? Like, he's aspiring to be him. Important note, it was said in the Osho book that to go from lion to child, you need to have a mentor or a master. And Vegeta has never had a master, not like Goku has. But if Vegeta did have a master, it's technically in the form of Goku, someone who he has always been trying to beat the whole time. So anyways, what I'm trying to say is, don't be a camel. And if you've transcended camel, don't go back to being a camel like the Saiyaman. Go be Vegeta. Go be an asshole for a bit. Go be a fucking dick. And once you've been a fucking dick, once you've had a crystallized ego, try to figure out how to be more Goku-like. Go study Gokuism, which is really fucking retarded, but I started looking this up, that there's like a bunch of Spanish and Mexican people who made like Facebook pages about Gokuism, which is where they basically just replaced Jesus with Goku. Which I'm sure you could see how that would work, but it's also kind of ridiculous. But then it just makes all of religion look pretty ridiculous at that point, if you can replace Goku that easily with Jesus. But anyways, do with this info what you will. This is just something that's been on my mind and I wanted to rant about. Peace out, motherfucker.